Ahoy, cruise enthusiasts! I'm sure everyone's heard about the story of the young man who disappeared from Carnival Conquest about a month ago now, and the various revelations that have come up over the past couple of weeks. So I just want to talk about a few things in this case that I think a lot of people are just missing, glossing over, and might not be aware of. I don't know. But first off, there are very, very few circumstances in which Carnival is responsible for this, right? So the cruise lines, they basically provide a floating hotel with restaurants, shows, and bars, and everything like that. But, you know, everyone really is still just as responsible for themselves and their conduct as they would be on any land-based activity. So the only scenario where I could come up with where Carnival would actually be responsible is if there was like a maybe not a non-obvious defect on the ship. Maybe it was something temporary, like a hatch was left open and unsecure and unguarded, and this young man just kind of stumbled into it and, well, ended up maybe at the bottom of a compartment, you know, between the double hull, place that's not inspected normally, a place that you would never expect to find a guest. And, well, when this open hatch was discovered, instead of, well, investigating what might have happened in that open hatch, they just closed it and went on their business, right? So that's a way the cruise line could be responsible. Other than that, there's other people involved, I would imagine. Or it could just be a mysterious disappearance. So let's talk about cameras. Right now, Carnival is getting dragged for not having cameras everywhere, not being able to track guests from stem to stern. But, you know, be careful what you wish for, because while it might help in this particular circumstance, I think people really need to ask themselves, do they really want cameras everywhere all the time? Do you really want someone to know exactly when you entered and left your stateroom and with who? Do you really want someone to be able to track your movements anywhere on the ship at any given moment? And do the cruise lines want to become the first go-to for every divorce lawyer or cucked man? Also, does it help? Because you see, the UK has between 5 and 6 million CCTV cameras pointed everywhere, and it seems like they also have a crime wave going on. And whenever they do use the cameras, it's to prosecute pronoun crime or something. So, yeah, I think we really need to ask ourselves, are more cameras the solution to this? And I realize I say that talking into a camera. More importantly, people are just going to have to accept that we are not going to hear from Carnival again on this matter, because apparently it is an active criminal investigation. And I am sure Carnival is cooperating with law enforcement in any way they can, providing whatever information they can, which means any new information is going to come solely from the Miami-Dade Police Department, and only if they think it will help the investigation. Also, be aware that any previously released information might be misleading-ish, and that could be on purpose. Now, fortunately, major crime is almost at a record low here in South Florida. I wonder why that is. So I think they have time to work on this. So I'm not really worried about that. But what I am, well, not really worried about, but let's talk about the drama that has ensued among the cruising community. The first thing that got people in an uproar was the post-cruise survey that went out automatically, right? The cruise ended, and that happens automatically to about, I think, 2 days after disembarkation. I just got one from Carnival Horizon. Nobody actually sent that. It's an automated process, and I guess nobody even thought to stop it, because why would they? But what people are saying is, well, Carnival sent out this email, they sent out this survey, you know, how was your cruise? But they didn't bother to ask if anybody had seen this young man. Does anybody have any information about this young man? Why didn't they use this opportunity to solicit all the guests for information? Well, it's very, very simple. If you have not been contacted for more information, it's because law enforcement does not think you're worth contacting. That's pretty much it. And the latest drama is a change.org petition, demanding information about the man overboard system and some contact details from the police department. Okay, so let's talk about the man overboard detection system first of all. They're not going to lie about this. They're not going to lie about this for two reasons. The certification of these systems is ongoing, and they are cooperating with the Coast Guard fully. I imagine it's the Coast Guard. I actually didn't bother to verify that, but I can't imagine who else would. So yes, they're cooperating with the Coast Guard on getting their man overboard detection system. Apparently, Carnival has deployed it on their entire fleet. And here's the thing. That is going to be public record. It might already be public record, but when the system is certified, it probably is a public record, which anybody can FOIA and see the date of installation and whether or not it meets all of the regulations. So yeah, they're not going to risk lying to the Coast Guard about something like this. Also, well, actually, they're not going to risk a public lie because it will be found out, but more importantly, they're not going to lie to the Coast Guard about this. So yes, the man overboard detection system is installed on the ship, and it is currently undergoing certification. So that's another reason you're probably not going to hear anything about it because, right, they don't want to risk that certification. But number two, though, these are professional mariners, and they take man overboard situations very, very seriously. So questioning their professional ethics is not going to get anybody or this investigation anywhere. Then the petition was demanding that Carnival prove that they handed over like all of the security footage and everything to the law enforcement, and they demanded the officer and the badge number of whoever they handed over to. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Okay, I'm very confident that all this information was requested and provided, and law enforcement has everything they have asked for, and if they come up with something to ask for, Carnival will provide it. So, yeah, I hate to break it to you, but it's right now, it's none of our business, which means there is a lot about this situation that we may never know, but there are things that the investigators know, like all of his account activity, like all of the account activity of every other guest, and they can certainly tell if anything lines up suspiciously. That's their job. So again, I'm sure they have everything they need. They're just not going to tell us about every step of the investigation. The investigators, they probably know things about the family that the family doesn't know. They probably know things about this young man that the family doesn't know. They probably know things about other guests that, well, other people don't know, and we certainly don't need to know. These are things that, well, you know what? We may never know unless or until they are actually presented in court. So it's time for everybody to just step back, rebalance your expectations, and let our law enforcement professionals do their job. So the only lesson right now for us cruisers is very simple. And I know you're not supposed to say things like this, but take care of yourself, know your surroundings, know who you're with, and get yourself out of any sketchy situation. I'll see you on board. Good morning, cruise enthusiasts. Apparently in the just over a day since I talked to you about this last, more information has been revealed about this situation. I'm sure you all have heard about the serious trouble this man was in. So for anyone's information, these parolees, they know exactly what they're allowed to do, and they know exactly what they're not allowed to do. So I think it's fair to assume that when he boarded the ship, he knew he was in violation. It's also pretty much guaranteed that MDPD SVU has known about this probably since the first, second, third day at most. Yeah, the kind of information that they don't really have to share with anybody. And as for the parole officer saying he heard about it in the media, remember, the politicians say that too. So yeah, probably a little bit of more purposeful misinformation there. Now, it is curious as to why and how this information was leaked now after all. And I also think it's a little bit curious that a celebrity gossip rag is the one that apparently dug this information up. However, it doesn't really change anything other than now we can speculate on other things the investigation team is looking at, like suspiciously large luggage at disembarkation. And as for the man overboard detection systems, I would not be surprised if they were tuned more for accidental or spontaneous overboard events, which means, like airport security, with just a tiny bit of effort, they can be rendered pretty much useless. But we don't know what they may have found after a more careful and thorough examination. I do hope this man gets his day back in court, but it's still, right now, none of our business. So until then, I'll see you on board.